Start. Hi everyone, my name is Chloe Messdaghi and I am the head of the SF Bay Area WoSEC chapter. And when I'm not doing that, I'm also the co-founder with my wonderful co-founder that you see on the screen with me, Tanya Janca. I'll let her give a quick intro. Just want to give a big thanks to OWASP, their Bay Area chapter, for making this happen, and also for Tanya for giving some of her time. We're going to cover the top 10 OWASP. I mean the OWASP Top 10. There we go. It's Wednesday. Tanya, do you mind telling a little bit about yourself to the folks that do not know who you are?
Oh, I have an entire slide, but let me tell you that I am an OWASP chapter leader. So I used to lead the Ottawa chapter with my friends Sharif, Paul, Garth, and Nancy. And then I moved to Victoria, which is a beautiful island in Canada just above Seattle. And we started an OWASP chapter here because, like, what else could we do, right? There wasn't one. I also started an OWASP project with my friends Nicole and Nancy, Francisca, a whole bunch of us now, called DevSwap. And I am a giant nerd that loves the open web application security project, and especially mostly the community. So I am Travis today. I am Travis McPeak. I am not only your host, one of your hosts, but one of your guests. And so you are probably on this because you are either a member of WoSEC, Women of Security, or you're a member of OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, San Francisco. So I'm hoping that if you like this, that you go to their other meetups, because I'm a fan. A whole bunch of people have posted, or maybe neither. Well, either way, we're really.
I was about to say, like, it could be lots of people that are like, hey, this is virtual. It's a WoSEC event. I'm going to join it. No matter where I am, what gender I am, I'm joining this.
Wow.
Ooh, Chicago. Nice.
Welcome,
I miss Chicago.
Andrea.
I miss Chicago so much. I miss Bad Hunter. It's my favorite restaurant.
Darn.
Hi there, Larcy. How's it going? I see you all the way from Dallas, but I don't see you, but I'm just saying hi.
Hi, Michelle, Andrea, Larcy, everyone. Welcome. So I was thinking I would kick off my talk, and I'm going to tell you what OWASP is and all those things as part of the talk. So this talk is sort of interactive because that's how I'm. Oh, hello, Erubito, if I said that right. Hi. So if you have a question partway through, whenever, you can put it in the chat or you can put it in the Q&A. I think it'll be easier for me to see the chat, but let me start with sharing my screen. So I am going to share desktop number 2, which has a bunch of slides on it, and then I'm going to start my slideshow. So please tell me that you can see the good version. Actually, it doesn't matter. I don't think I have any speaker's notes for this because it's just the topic I know. So if at any point, if you have a question or comment or anything, I'm going to see it on this part of the screen, and then I will try to respond to it when there's a good chance for me to pause. And yes, those are like Wi-Fi lights back there. However, IoT is really insecure, so they're not connected to my network. I just like use them manually, old school. Okay, so I'm Tanya Janca, and I'm going to tell you about the OWASP Top 10. So we're going to talk about OWASP today, the Open Web Application Security Project. We're going to talk about the top 10 and why on earth it's the most famous thing that our giant, huge community does. We're going to talk a little bit about what's next. So at the very end, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of free resources of things that may help you. Okay, so I'm Tanya Janca. This is the About Me slide where every speaker tells you about them in hopes that you will think that we are qualified to do our own talk. So I founded my own security training company, and guess what we teach? AppSec. We are called We Hack Purple. I'm also known as She Hacks Purple. Yes, my hair has some purple to it, and I wear purple way too often, but mostly it's about blue team and red team and how I like to do both defense and offense, and I couldn't make up my mind. I just wrote a book, and I'm ridiculously excited about Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. I worked in tech a long time. Oops. I founded Women of Security with Chloe and a bunch of other super amazing, awesome women because we wanted to make cool new friends. I'm a fan of OWASP. I have a podcast now. It's called We Hack Purple. And basically, I am a nerd at large on the internet. And I hope you feel this qualifies me for what you're about to see. Let's do this. Okay, so OWASP. OWASP stands for the Open Web Application Security Project. But basically, there are 4 parts. The first part, it is a nonprofit foundation, or a nonprofit foundation. So you can give donations to them/us. And they do stuff with it. They run giant conferences right now online, but previously in person, where you would receive lots of awesome training, knowledge, conversations, probably friendships. The food was also quite good, like really good for a conference. Okay, also they have amazing open source projects. There are over 100 OWASP projects that are active and a whole bunch more that have sort of like faded out, but would love your assistance if you had time. Then we have chapters, so that's what you're at. So in different cities all over the planet, we have chapters of people that are local, that meet each other, that spend time together, that hire each other and teach each other and mentor each other and become friends. That's how I met a whole bunch of my friends in Ottawa, was through this chapter, and now through my chapter in my new city, which is awkward because there's a pandemic, and that means no one gets physical hugs anymore. You just get that cute emoticon with the hands. The last thing about OWASP is it's a giant online community. There are so many of us that are really concerned with the security of software. And that's basically what OWASP has dedicated itself to as a foundation. We want to further the world of ensuring that software on the internet is safe. I want to buy shoes safely. I'm not kidding, right? Chloe's nodding, yeah. I want to buy shoes safely on the internet too. So there is a question in the chat. Thank you, Paul. Is there an AppSec project group or similar in ISACA? I am not sure, Paul. I don't know. I've spoken at ISACA meetups before, but I've never actually joined ISACA, mostly because there's only so many hours in a day, not because it's not totally awesome. If anyone wants to put stuff in the chat to say that there is something in ISACA for that, like I know I've given AppSec talks for them, but I don't know if they have open source projects. I'm not the expert on that. Okay, more. So the top 10. So the top 10 is a powerful awareness document about the most critical web application flaws. So that's how they describe it. But I would describe it as a great place to start learning about different types of vulnerabilities. I would describe it as something that software security vendors use constantly in their marketing schemes. I should use a nicer word than scheme. Promotions. So often, like, you know, products will say, oh, OWASP Top 10 compliant. There is no compliancy. It is not a standard. It's the start. So there's all these awesome humans that work on this project. And the idea is they try to get data from industry, analyze all that data, and then try to figure out what the top 10 worst risks are to web apps on the internet. OWASP also has worst IoT risks. They have a serverless one. They have an API one. Turns out top 10 lists are super popular. David Letterman was right. So it is the most famous thing that OWASP has done, which I personally find frustrating because we do so many cool things. Like, this is very cool. But we also have amazing communities all around the world, over 300 chapters. We have, they made OWASP Zap. That is a Dask product that pew, pew, scans all your web apps. There's Defect Dojo, totally amazing. Okay, so I'll just like name OWASP projects all day that are amazing. But my favorite project, and I think I'm gonna say mine, that's my second favorite project. My favorite project is the OWASP cheat sheets. Whenever I don't know what to do, I look up OWASP cheat sheet, and then whatever the thing is, and then there are so many amazing security professionals that came together and worked for free to make sure you knew what to do. And I really appreciate those people. Okay, oh, and my OWASP project is called DevSlop, Sloppy DevOps, and you should check us out on YouTube. But anyway, okay, so this is the top 10. I am going to go through these one at a time. And then I want, basically, if you want to talk about them, we can. And if you don't, that's okay too. But I'm just going to explain them to you. It's a lot of information. If you have not learned the top 10 before, this might melt part of your brain. And for that, I am sorry. It is a lot. I'll try to simplify it as much as I can without skipping over parts that are actually important. There is a message in the chat. Score. Please let folks know that the top 10 is a subset of the top 100 that is also published by OWASP. I did not know that. I did not know we had a top 100. Readers typically only know about the top 10, but for security folks, there is a lot more. There is way more than just 10 or 100, right? Like, if you sat all day like memorizing different vulnerabilities, I mean, if you want to be a security researcher, that might be really helpful. But if you're trying to secure web apps, you probably want to start with memorizing the defenses. But that's my very biased opinion. Okay, so this is what the top 10 looks like, but let's go through them one by one. Okay, so the first one is injection. This has been the #1 since the very beginning and has never changed. And it is because if your app has injection, it's kind of like the end of the world. So injection means your app is tricked into executing someone else's code, or your operating system is tricked into doing someone else's bidding. The idea is that if there can be a command issued or code interpreted, you can try to inject your own. So there's LDAP injection, there's XML, and there's so many injections. But the idea is that basically the code somehow gets in there, like the malicious code from an attacker, and then it is executed by your systems as though it's legit, as though it's part of its own system. So then that means it runs with just as many privileges and powers and access as your system. So that means if it's in your LDAP, it's changing your LDAP values. That means that if it's an SQL injection, that means that it is changing things in your database or trying to get data out that it shouldn't, or deleting things or ruining things. And all of that is very bad because it affects not only the confidentiality, but also the integrity and the availability of your systems. That's the CIA. We're supposed to protect all 3 of those pillars of security, but injection can mess with all 3 of them depending. It's very, very scary. You want to fix this right away if you have it. There are rare instances where you might have several other mitigations and safeguards such that it can't do very much. That's possible. And if that happened, that would be great. Oh, when will the slide deck be available? Oh, I'll just share it after, don't worry. And also these slides, this is all from the OWASP Top 10 webpage. Like, I mean, I just like copied and pasted it into a slide deck, and then you just get my extra cuteness where I brag about myself, but I will totally share it. But this information on this page, I did not write this. The amazing OWASP Top 10 research team wrote these. So good on them, because they gave me cool stuff to talk about. So injection, yeah. Oh, someone just shared the, I don't think that that's the link to this, but oh, that's the 100 top vulnerabilities. Thank you, Ty. Okay, so does anyone have questions about injection? It's important to know that injection basically can be stopped in the biggest way with input validation. You're going to see this over and over again, that a lot of these could be stopped with input validation. Input validation is our #1 defense of web apps. Obviously, you always want to have all the infrastructure and everything underneath be good, but if everyone did really good input validation, life would be a lot better for a lot of incident response teams. Okay, so I'm giving people a little bit of time to ask questions. I'm not diving super deep into each one because then we'll be here until next week and Chloe will be sad. Okay, next, broken authentication. So there's authorization, which is sometimes called auth-z, and authentication, which is sometimes called auth-n. So authorization is where it's like, is Tanya allowed to do these things? Yeah, she's okay. She can have access to the peanut butter. However, authentication is making sure that I am the real Tanya. I'm not a different person named Tanya. I'm not someone trying to pretend to be Tanya. I am the real authentic one that you think I am. So it's the way that the computer verifies that you are the real you. And so broken authentication means I could pretend I'm Chloe. And like, obviously everyone sometimes wishes they were Chloe, but it's not cool if you take over her sessions or her identities online. You should just dream about it like everyone else. She's like, shut up, Tanya. But the point here is that if you have your authentication and your application broken, that means it's not identifying people correctly. And that means that someone could impersonate someone else. And that means, for instance, someone could log into my bank account and then steal my money. They could log into Audible and then buy books that aren't very good. There's so many things that could happen. They could buy ugly shoes. No one wants this. There's much worse things that can happen. But the idea is that if the way that your application authenticates people is broken, that means people can impersonate other users, usually users that have more power than them, or users who have access to things they want access to, such as money or also information. Ooh, there is a question. How is broken authentication related to session hijacking? So session hijacking is where you take over someone's session. So let me explain what a session is. So when HTTP was created, we just thought it would be like bulletin boards. We just thought it would be a plain website and people would go read the stuff and then get out of there. But it turned out you could make more money and have more fun if you kept people on your page. So we started making the pages do stuff. Eventually we're like, I want to know who it is that I'm interacting with. Like if someone wants to buy shoes, you need to have a session with them. You need to keep, as they visit page to page, if you want to keep that stuff in their shopping cart, you need to like continue to manage the session to make sure, oh, it's still them, it's still them, it's still them. And don't worry, I still have all those cute shoes that you like. If someone hijacks your session, that means they're taking over and pretending they're you. I have lots of sessions that are open all the time. So some sessions I always have closed or log themselves out, like my bank accounts. But for instance, I have, I don't know, let's say Audible is logged into all the time. I listen to a number of audiobooks that is probably ridiculous. And so that's open all the time. So if you hijack my session, you might be able to buy a book with my new credit, because it probably won't re-authenticate because I'm already logged in. I hope that that helps, anonymous attendee, with your answer. Thank you for the question. I really appreciate questions. I'm going to assume that that was good. And if it's not, please just put another question in the Q&A or the chat so I can help. Okay, so the next one is sensitive. Oh, thank you. I got the thumbs up that it was good. So sensitive data exposure. So like I said, CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability are kind of the things we're trying to protect. That's sort of our mandate as security people. Confidentiality is this one. If we are exposing sensitive data by accident, this is a problem. Let me tell you about a problem I reported last night and was told non-ceremoniously to go away this morning. There is a company called Basecamp, and they make this really cool project management software. And I was thinking of buying it for my company. So then all of us nerds went onto it and played with it. And within like an hour, one of my team was like, Tanya, there is absolutely no, like, there's no access management. Like I can invite anyone and I'm not an admin user. And so it turns out that they believe in radical transparency, and I guess that's nice for them, but I believe in confidentiality. And so if someone could take over one of my employees' accounts, they could invite every single person on the internet. Also, like you can't have private chats, like, so unfortunately, I love the layout and all these other things, and that's cool. However, I believe that that's a security problem, but they told me they believe in radical transparency / they don't agree. And I was like, peace. I will have to buy another product, which sucks because I thought it looked really good and it was affordable. So if you don't have any privacy concerns about running your entire business, I guess you could use that. But obviously I'm very biased. Okay, so we don't want to expose sensitive data. So there are a bunch of different ways you can protect yourself against this. So the first thing that I like to do is I want to classify and label all of my data in the database. I want to classify my systems. So classification is saying what level of sensitivity, even if the level of sensitivity is like, oh, it's public knowledge, it's totally unclassified. I don't care if everyone knows. Like, I don't care if everyone knows my first name and my last name. I actually don't care if people know my middle name. That does not matter to me. However, something that might be private would be like, let's say my health records. I feel that's sensitive and I don't want anyone to have that. So I would label that as personally identifiable information. And I would probably label it, if I was in the Canadian government like I used to be, protected the sensitive information about a human. Depending upon where you work, you'll have different types of classification systems. So if you work in a government versus a private company, but basically at We Have Purple, we have 2 levels. 1, everyone can know. 2, only we can know. So for instance, if it's about a client, only we can know. That's it. Oh, someone answered a thing, so I'm just gonna say it's good. Thanks for answering my questions, Chloe. And then we label it. So you need to let everyone know this is confidential. So when I send out certain things to all my staff, I say, this is confidential, so they know. I also, when I hire people, I explain to them, if anything has to do with any of our clients, it's always confidential. You may never discuss this outside of work with us. And you only, I explained also need to know, etc. You need to test for this too. Automated tools suck at detecting sensitive information. So you need to label it if at all possible. So like, let's say you have a database, you can add your own field, or lots of them now have classification fields, which is awesome. And in your systems, in your design documents, when you're talking to software developers, like they should be aware of what they're programming for. And then you also need to discuss with anyone that's doing security testing, what is sensitive and what isn't. Sometimes a combination of data becomes sensitive. I caught this once on, so I used to be a pen tester, and I caught this. I was like, oh crap, we're asking for this, 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 and this. And that 5 combination turns it into this level of security. And everyone was like, oh crap. But it was fine, and then we fixed it. And so it was good. The client was really pleased. Like, we never thought about it that way. And I was like, awesome sauce, let's fix it. They fixed it. And then we went out to production into the world, and life is good. But this is a thing you need a lot of manual testing. Next, this is a brand new one on the top 10. So the top 10 that I am showing you is the version from 2017. There's no newer version. They don't do one every year. Do you want to know why? Because the people that work on this have lives, because they do other stuff. I actually am pretty sure that almost all of them contribute to other OWASP projects. They also have full-time jobs. One of them happens to be the executive director of OWASP. Hi, Andrew. But like, they don't do this all the time. So this, although that you might think, oh, this is 3 years old, maybe it's changed. It has probably not changed very much. And they are planning to do another one in 2021, I believe, which I think is really great. Oh. In the US, your birthday and your zip code can find your account, then your name, then your mother's maiden name, then bust your bank account. Oh my gosh, that's so terrifying. Whew. I have an internet birthday. It's April 1st, 1980. None of that's true. Also, when I answer security questions, I actually save it into my password manager, and what I do is it's like, what's your mother's maiden name? And then I have it automatically generate a unique 64-bit random character, and I paste that crap in. And then they're like, what was the place where you had your first kiss? I'm like, XYZ exclamation mark underscore blah, blah, blah. It's a hoot when I have to call the bank. Someone just messaged, what, you're not 20 years old? Nope, I'm in my 40s. Boom. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Okay, so also another thing about how old I am, XML External Entities. So I was around when they invented XML. Yeah, I'm old. I like to think of that as meaning I'm so experienced. And I remember when it came out, so XML, like you probably have seen the format, but a thing you might not be aware of is DTT files. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, they allowed you to create your own XML definitions. And I was like, why would we want everyone defining their own XML? That sounds like a giant pain in the ass. Turned out I was right. And so basically, most people all follow the exact same XML definition file now because standardization is actually awesome when it comes to technology. I don't know what they were thinking when they invented this, but probably it was before a lot of security problems. That said, there are still some companies that take advantage of the fact that you can define your own XML definition file. And that means that all of these different compilers and servers, et cetera, have to have that functionality. And so by default, you should turn that off. But by default on some of them, it's on. And so what some pen testers have found and malicious actors is that they could feed their own XML definition file in and then feed their own malicious XML in and then get all the goodies. So the main defense for this is just turn that off. Just say you are not allowed external XML entities. You're not allowed uploading anything. You're not allowed changing our definition file. Boom, that's it, final. I believe that they have some other options here, but just don't accept files from strangers. Just like when you're little and your parents are like, don't accept candy from strangers. It's the exact same, except for, you know, XML doesn't taste as good as candy. But the point here is that we never trust strangers on the internet. So if someone is trying to upload a file to define how you try XML, that's probably never good. I suggest just turning it off. If you have a very special business case, then you want to memorize everything about this because it is a serious threat. Oh, someone is saying you are a stranger on the internet. It's true, I'm a stranger on the internet, but you're not trusting me. I guess you're trusting OWASP because they made this. Make sure your mother's maiden name is not real. Yes, 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 yes. I agree so much. I agree so much. So if there aren't questions about this, I will continue because we're only on number 4 and we're at 25 minutes. And I said I would try to do around 60-ish minutes because I don't want to hurt any of you with so much. The first time I heard the OWASP Top 10, I swear my jaw must have touched the floor. I was just like, there's a lot of information. Oh, someone is writing, OWASP is a stranger on the internet. Actually, it's a whole bunch of strangers on the internet. We're asking you to trust us. Okay, number 5, broken access control. So when they say access control, they mean who is allowed to do what. And when they say broken, they mean misconfigured, totally missing. You can get around stuff if you want to. So my employee that figured out that on Basecamp, he could just invite any single person that he wanted to. Well, then he went and invited Evil Him. Is hilarious. He made up an email address and everything to prove the point that we should not use Basecamp and we should use the project management software that he prefers. But he won his argument, right? Oh, people are quoting things in the chat. Someone's like, when the pandemic's over and we can meet in person, we can confirm that you are a stranger. Awesome sauce. But so most systems call this identity and access management, or AIM, or no, IAM, like IAM. The idea is that first we want to figure out who you are, your identity, and then we decide which access you're allowed, and we manage that. So each page that you go on to in a web application, each new functionality that you go to, they want to verify, oh, it's still this person, that's session. And then, oh, they're allowed to go there. That is access control. So yes, I'm still allowed to see all of the new shoes, unlike, you know, One of my friends made a funny gift for me, and it was, you know, like the Interact payment system, and it said, "Denied, you have bought too many plants, Tanya." That would be access control saying, like, no, she's bought too many plants, she's cut off. But the point here is that access control is very important. So whenever you have an app that has different levels to users, so you have a regular user, an admin user, a super user, you need to test all of those different roles and make sure that they can only see the things that they're supposed to. If there are different levels of privilege, there's always going to be someone that attempts to escalate their privilege. They want to have more privileges. No one's ever like, hey, I wonder if I can go down to a lower, less powerful user. No one is trying to do that. Although I guess theoretically you should test that too. But the point is that you need to test this thoroughly. You need to test this manually. So it says, how to prevent access control is only effective if it is enforced on a trusted server-side control or serverless API. I do agree with that. But the main key here is threat model, review your design to make sure it looks good, and then test very thoroughly. You should also do these things that OWASP says. There are some questions. What PM software did the employee recommend or prefer? So the other employee wants us to have Monday.com, which costs more than Basecamp. So as the person that pays the bills, I was less enthused. Also, someone else has suggested another one. I can't remember what it's called. Elysian or something. It's not Elassian. I was looking at a bunch of them. There's a whole bunch that are really great. But I read the book by the authors of, by the founders of Basecamp, and they had lots of smart stuff in there. So I was like, oh, they seem very smart. Maybe their tool is very smart. And if it wasn't for that security concern, I would be like, I'm all in. So that was broken access control. So another thing is security misconfiguration. So there are all sorts of configurations in every single product, and you have to choose, hopefully correctly, you have to choose wisely. And so this often is just a mistake. It's not that someone, oh, it wasn't Atlassian and it wasn't Jira. No, I love Jira. It's great for tracking bugs, but I don't think I want to manage my stuff in it for that. We're like, no. Thanks, Paul. No, yeah, he agrees. Okay, cool. But it wasn't Atlassian, but it sounds like it because it's a word, it's a fake word. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's not real, so then it's harder to remember. It would be different if they're named Cute Cuddly Kittens. No one would forget the name of that project management software. But anyway, I digress just slightly. So we choose our configurations on our tools all the time, right? And so when we discovered this issue in Basecamp, I immediately wanted to go fix it. I'm like, oh, I'll just change, this must be a security misconfiguration. I must have made an error when I set this up. But it turns out there is no option. By default, anyone can invite anyone to see all of your projects, all of your files, all of your employees' conversations, etc. And that freaks me out. Oh, yes, someone is suggesting Trello and they have a dog. Yeah, Trello is really nice. I briefly used that for a project I did when I was consulting, because that's what they used, and it was quite nice. Thank you. Oh, wait, I am answering it live and clicking OK. Okay. Oh, someone is also suggesting for this, please reference the CIS standards, a good set of specification on how to prevent this. Yes. Okay, so there's this group called CIS, C-I-S, and they make something called the CIS benchmarks. And they are basically a recipe for awesome, excellent, locked down security configurations for everything. And on top of that, they now have progressed past that, where now they have CIS benchmark images of different operating systems, like virtual machines that you can download. A+, so it's already locked down for you. And CIS benchmarks are created by lots of industry experts that all work together. And so that's actually a really sweet deal. And I know that Azure started doing a thing where you could see if you were compliant with the CIS benchmarks. It's not complete, it's only partial. But there's all these third-party companies now that are making policy automation tools for the cloud, where it will actually like scan your stuff and then tell you like, oh, you are compliant with HIPAA, you're almost compliant with ISO 27001, etc. And CIS benchmarks is one of the ones. Yeah, there's so many cool security tools coming out. I talked to a lot of startups. The point of this is that you need to follow the hardening guide of whatever you, like they'll say lots of stuff here, but it is basically very important that you follow the hardening guide and then you have someone else verify that you followed it. So I don't know about you, but I'm a human and I make errors. That is why, so for instance, I have a mailing list, like a newsletter I send out, and there's often spelling mistakes because I make mistakes and it's really long. And so now now that I have a bigger team than just me, I get one of them to read it over and correct me. Turns out they have awesome spelling, and together, well, I don't know, we sent the mail out this morning, so hopefully we're not gonna have any complaints about spelling mistakes. It'll be a first. But the point is like having someone else check your work. Follow the manufacturer's advice. It's almost always the best advice you could get because they made it. And a minimal platform without unnecessary features and components. Yeah, if you can. But the point here is that verify, like do your best and then have someone verify, especially if it is public facing. Anything that's on the internet definitely needs to be hardened, which means configured such that it is as locked down as possible. And only the people have access that you expect to have access, and they only have the accesses that you expect them to have. There is a comment. The hardening guide is a good base, but it is always evolving. CIS standards don't get updated to keep up with the threat landscape. Yes, I agree that they are imperfect. Yep, definitely. Well, we could go a lot more in depth into misconfigurations because like you could listen to, so there you can subscribe to different threat feeds that will tell you information about exploits that are happening. You can, for instance, so like, let's say use WordPress. I years ago used WordPress as in a band. We had a website. I made a WordPress website, and then I signed up for their mailing list for security, and then they would tell me whenever there was a security problem or a thing I needed to change, and that was awesome. So there's all sorts of different ways that you can keep up on this to ensure that you have the best advice. But the manufacturer is usually pretty decent. But I am open to agree that it's not always perfect and that it is evolving, especially as people find new vulnerabilities. So on next, we have cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting is interesting because it is sort of like injection, because you can convince them, you're convincing an app to run your JavaScript. So JavaScript that does not belong to the app, and you're convincing it to run. But unlike injection, it doesn't run on the server or the operating system. It's not put through an interpreter. It's actually run in the browser, in the user's own computer, and then attacks them directly. So all the other ones have to go off somewhere else onto a server or somewhere else to be interpreted and then executed. Well, cross-site scripting lives in your browser and jumps right out at you from your own computer and has all the power that JavaScript has in that browser on your computer. Oh, there's another comment. How soon are zero-day attacks patched and circulated by vendors? It depends on the vendor. Google is really big on trying to make everyone do a 90-day disclosure from when it is reported to when it is patched, and then they share the patch. However, not everyone agrees to that. There are still companies that try to sue security researchers, which I think is definitely a waste of lawyer time. So is there an industry standard? I'm told not technically. However, most of the companies aim for 90 days. but it depends. Like Spectre and Meltdown was really hard. It took like 6 or 7 PhDs a whole year to execute it, to fix it. So I am going to hope that's a good enough answer. Next question. Are these top 10 in order of most dangerous or most prevalent or in no particular order? That is such a fantastic question, Chris. I should have said that at the beginning. So it is the worst damage, like the worst risk that could happen. It is not the most prevalent. I would say the most prevalent is security misconfiguration. And then up next, I believe it's cross-site scripting. I am not 1000% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure. So security misconfiguration is unfortunately a giant winner. Oh, we have another excellent question in the chat. Doesn't stored XSS go to the server? Aha, trickster. There are 3 types of cross-site scripting. There's reflected, stored, and DOM. So the first one is reflected. And so what happens is so let's say I send Chloe a phishing email because I have become evil Tanya. So I send her an email and then she clicks on it because she thought I was not evil Tanya. She thought I was regular style Tanya. She clicks on it and then it goes to a website. And in the link, there's some phishing. Or it brings her to a phishing site and that contains the cross-site scripting. So it could be in the link or it could be on the site. And then it reflects off that server back at her and then executes in her browser against her. And she's like, ah, Tanya's the worst. But there's also stored cross-site scripting. So let's say I'm entering my name into a database. So I got this on a pen test once and it was so cute. So I was pen testing SharePoint, which is a secure tool, or is a secure piece of software, but was not hardened properly. They did not follow the hardening guide. And so I was making labels for things, and in the labels, I was injecting cross-site scripting with a message box that would make fun of the SharePoint administrator, because that is how I act at work. So I was sending emoticons like and other things at him, and then it was popping up on his phone and executing at him in his phone, which was awesome to show why they should pay me for my work. And so it got saved into SharePoint. And then part of SharePoint is that it would send the administrator an email when people made certain changes. And then it took the thing, it was like, oh yeah, and the name of the new page she made was explode in his face. And so it had saved it in the database. So when also bonus, if anyone went to that page, then it would also explode in their face. So it's super awesome. So it's stored on the server, but then it actually executes still in the browser and explodes at them. And then the last one is DOM-based cross-site scripting. So that stands for Document Object Model. And so a lot of times software developers don't want to go back to the server for everything, and they want to keep some stuff so that they can do things, and they usually put it in the document object model. And it's just like, oh, we're doing work, like the program's running, we don't want to always just jump back to the server, we'll just do stuff in the DOM. And so if you can get cross-site scripting into that DOM, it is very hard to test for that. It's very hard to defend against that. And the easiest way to make sure you don't get it is to not process stuff only in the DOM. You've got to do input validation back on your server, which ruins why you would use the DOM. So people don't like that advice because it's faster to use the DOM. So to prevent cross-site scripting, we need to do lots and lots and lots and lots of input validation. And by that, I mean, we need to make an accepted or approved list, not a block list. It's really important we make a regular expression or a regex that says, yes, uppercase letters, yes, lowercase letters, yes, all the numbers, yes, single quote, whatever. Not no open bracket, no close, because I am a jerk face and I will immediately go around it. I will use the ASCII version of that character. I will HTML encode something and then pass it through to you, knowing it will decode and then explode in your face. I'm a jerk face. And so if you want to defend against jerk faces, you need to make an accepted approved list and validate against that, and then just reject all other input. The second thing for cross-site scripting is that you want to output and code all of the stuff that you put on the screen. So whatever you put on the screen, you want to output and code it, because it will remove any superpowers that it might have had. And if you do those two things, you'll be a very happy person. Also, you can test for it. Also, you can code review it for it. But for coding, specifically prevention, input validation, output encoding, Bob's your uncle. There's a question. How could we fix a reflected cross-site scripting attack on a web API endpoint, which seems to be accepting all JavaScript in certain field? So you should use input validation on that field in your API. Also, it wouldn't be a reflected cross-site scripting. Who's Bob? Oh, it's an expression. Bob's your uncle. It means life is good. I don't know why having an uncle named Bob makes life really good. People are teasing me and making me giggle. Oh, so someone named Ty, thank you Ty, has put a link in the chat about the Java HTML sanitizer project. So I'm not sure if that project is still active. So you might want to check to make sure it's still active before you use it. However, I know .NET has its own sanitization and output encoding stuff. I know Ruby has all of that built in. So a lot of the modern programming frameworks have all these protections built in. So please use them. They're really good. Did I answer all the cross-site scripting questions? Because I feel like I might have gotten a bit off topic when I was ranting about input validation. If there are any more questions, please put it in the chat and I'll totally get to it. I just want to make sure, because this is a tricky one and cross-site scripting is just so prevalent. As of maybe 5 years ago, the OWASP Foundation issued a statement that it was in something like 1/3 of all web apps. And the problem is that with cross-site scripting, if there's any other vulnerability, like a missing security header, if there's so many other possibilities, if you chain the two together, it's just a total disaster. Like cross-site scripting, unfortunately, for the good people who are the protectors, it's really excellent to chain with other problems. Okay. Aha! There's a question in the chat. I knew if I just took a sip of my diet orange crush that it would work. Okay, so what do you think about SAST, DAST, etc.? I love tools. Tools make it easier for me to do my job. I think that code review of new code to ensure that there's input validation and output encoding is a really good way to prevent cross-site scripting. I think that using a SAST, so that's Static Application Security Testing tool, which analyzes your written code to look for problems. I think that's another good way. DAST, Dynamic Application Security Testing tools. So they interact with your web application while it runs. So that's good too. However, they can't find, like automated tools can't find everything. I know. If we could just use automated tools to find everything, like I wouldn't need to go to work anymore. It would be great. I would just go back to being a software developer. But until that day when they create the perfect tool, we still have to unfortunately do like manual testing to make sure we get everything. Oh, thank you. Okay, awesome sauce. So now we are on number 8. So that means we have 3 left. And this, number 8, insecure deserialization, is another new one on the list. So this has never been on the top 10 before. And this was because people kept telling OWASP it was a really big deal. I believe that this was first, so the deserialization vulnerability was first officially kind of discovered and talked about a lot in a talk that was at one of the OWASP conferences called Why So Serial, as in why so serious. And I love puns, so I was like, that's fantastic. So basically deserialization means, or insecurities, okay. we serialize objects, like change them kind of into a new format so that we can transfer them somewhere else, and then we deserialize them. This happens in .NET, it happens a lot in Java, it happens in XML. Unfortunately, I think even maybe, no, I don't think YAML is vulnerable to this, but most, like a lot of programming languages on the web are vulnerable to this, depending upon the version and the framework that you are using. And so you know, just like we talked about how you shouldn't accept candy from a baby, or you shouldn't accept candy from a stranger, you shouldn't steal candy from babies. That you shouldn't accept serialized objects from strangers and then deserialize them. Because unfortunately, there can be a big surprise in it. And by that, I mean a malicious attack that is now past your firewall and you have executed it on your network, inside your safe space. That is no good. And so the easiest way to prevent this is to not accept serialized objects unless it's from a trusted source, which is basically almost no one. Like, I joke that you need to validate your input from everyone, from your own database, from your own APIs, from partner APIs, from the public, from your web app, from the URL parameters, even your mom, because once my mom sent me an email and it had a virus. And so you need to validate all input. And this is particularly dangerous input. I would say that serialized objects rank right up there with allowing strangers on the internet to upload files to your web server. It's just like the maximum amount of danger because it executes. The idea of allowing something that I don't know what it is to execute is a big deal. I actually, I do lots of consulting, and one of the places wanted to send me a present. So they sent me like a candygram, I guess. And so it was an email, and I was like, we've sent you some candy. Like, it's a gift. And I was like, this looks like phishing. And I looked at it and I checked it out. And then eventually I decided to order delicious, delicious pistachios as my gift from this company, which is really sweet of them because they wanted to send a gift, but they wanted to make sure it was a thing you like. And I try not to eat candy, so I chose a healthy nut snack. But the point of this is not that pistachios are delicious. The point is that I immediately didn't trust it because I'm like, what is going on here, right? And so having someone give you a serialized object is really dangerous. So there's a second thing that you could do to protect yourself against this, is that you would only accept serialized objects that are of a primitive type, which means they can't execute and they can't be changed. And so that's one option, but I would argue that whenever possible, just don't accept serialized objects. And if you have people where you work, if you're a coder and you see this happening, you need to have a big discussion about it and figure out different ways that you can still get your work done without doing that, or you have to add a lot of precautions. The web page, like the OWASP cheat sheet on this and the number of articles. So I wrote about this in my book, Alice and Bob Learn AppSec. I was told to mention it whenever possible. That basically, like, it's just a zillion pages. It's a zillion things, like the number of things that you have to do in order to protect against it. And so I do detail it in the book because I have hundreds and hundreds of pages to do it and not like 5 minutes in an online talk. But this is really quite complex. And so if you must accept serialized objects from unknown sources, first of all, I'm really sorry for you. That is a hard place to be. And second of all, you want to read the OWASP cheat sheet about this. You want to definitely do a lot of online research about this. And then you need to test this inside and out because this is a dangerous activity. And so it is on the top 10 because there are so many people doing this and they're having bad cyber security attacks as a result. There are some comments. Oh, someone is saying, oh, I just received $700 worth of Best Buy cards. I hope they're real. And someone else is agreeing with me that pistachios are delicious. Oh my gosh, so good. I'm really glad I'm not allergic to nuts because they're all good. I haven't really met one I don't like. Okay, next. I talk about food a lot. Cashews are so good. Oh my gosh, walnuts, awesome. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So someone is responding, be classy, get the pre-shelled pistachios. Well, we'll see what they send me. Maybe they're sending me the non-classy style. They're still in, like, crack them open. I'm cool either way. Presents are nice. Okay, so second last one, number 9. This has also been on the top 10 since the beginning. Using components with known vulnerabilities. So, oh, someone, thank you, Whitney. So when you write code, from basically the very first day, like when I wrote my first C program, I had to add libraries. I had to add standard in and standard out so that I could put stuff on the screen, and then I could read stuff from the screen so that I could do the famous hello world. And oh my gosh, saffron flavored pistachios, that sounds amazing. I totally should have eaten dinner before this presentation. That I've never had that. Oh, that sounds very, very good. Okay, so every single one of those libraries that you include in your project is a potential vulnerability. That is code that your team and you did not write, but you're still accepting the risk. And so a lot of common vulnerabilities that are happening in apps are that they have a framework or a library or some other third-party component like a plugin, a NuGet package, whatever, is actually super vulnerable. And they've used it in their app because they want one of the pieces of functionality that it does, and they're completely unaware of the potential risk they're accepting. And so the way to protect yourself against this is to do software composition analysis. So there's 2 different ways that you can do. Ooh, oh, thank you for sharing a link to my book. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Thank you. I'm really ridiculously excited about my book. I'm gonna try not to start talking about it. I'm just so excited. I never thought that I would get to write a whole book. And it's amazing. And it's probably the hardest professional project of my whole life. Mostly because it is so much more work than people told me, and people told me it would be a lot of work, but you need to times that by 100, and then that's how much work it is to write a technical book. But that's okay, it's totally worth it. Okay, so you need to do software composition analysis in order to protect yourself against this risk. So there's kind of 2 ways. You could manually review all of those libraries. So there are actual places that do that. Big companies that have huge teams can do that. Or you can use a software composition or SCA tool, right? An SCA tool would be, so there's 3 kind of types to that. So one is one where you point it at your code repository. It looks at all your project files, so the files that list all your plugins, and it looks at all of the ones. Oh, so you have Struts version 1.0.13. That's bad. Some might argue that any version of Struts, you might not, from a security perspective, you might be in danger. But certainly that one is ancient. So it'll tell you, oh, there's all these things wrong with it. You really need to upgrade. And it will suggest a safe version to upgrade to. You can have it scan your code repository, and you can set that so it automates and it scans all of the apps that are in your code repository. If you are lucky and you work at an organized place and all the apps are in the same code repository, this means you as the security-minded individual just need to set this up once and it'll just scan all of them. That is A+. Another thing you can do is you can put this type of scan in your pipeline if you do DevOps, which is glorious because it's super fast. So it just checks, did they change anything from last time? Oh, they put this framework in. Okay, check it against the list of known bad. It's not there, okay, go. Or, oh, there's a critical in that, break the build. It's good. And then the last one, yes, you can buy my book not from Amazon. You can buy it from Barnes & Noble. You can buy it from, there's like this huge, huge list of places. Just use your favorite search engine to look for Alice and Bob Learn Application Security, and you should find it all over the place. I have been searching all over. I am not a gigantic fan of Amazon's business practices either. However, that is the place where everyone buys books. And thus, unless I wanted to not have my amazing publisher, Wiley Books, which I really, really do not want, they're amazing and wonderful. Yeah, it's the biggest bookseller in the world, so there was no choice in the matter. But I totally support you buying it from any other bookstore ever. So basically, the last type of SCA tool is a package manager. So I used to work at Microsoft, and for a long time before that, I did .NET. That was my jam. And so I would download stuff called NuGet packages, and that is kind of the types of libraries that they have in .NET. And so some SCA tools, I believe that there's at least 2 out there that do this, it proxies your IDE, so the place where you write your code all day. So it proxies the place where you would get those packages and instead shows you their own package repository that only has super secure stuff in there. So they have personally reviewed every single thing in there and they know it's good, and you are unable to download anything else. So this means that when I'm like looking through different packages I might want, bad ones just won't show up. This works really well for new projects, but this does not work well if you have a legacy app, because you won't be able to turn it on, because it'll just tell you like, does not compute, will not compile, and just breaks all your crap. But for a brand new project, this is excellent. So you can check it in your DevOps pipeline. You can have it scan your code repo regularly. You could even manually have it scan a folder, and you can have it be a package manager that proxies your IDE so that you can't download unapproved packages. There are questions in the chat. Awesome. Oh yeah, you should just order it directly from Wiley Books. Those are my people. I actually just ordered 200 copies today. So everyone that takes one of the courses from We Hack Purple, get a book. Yay! So I had to order a couple hundred today. So you can buy it directly from Wiley, and I just posted the link. Thank you. So someone has a comment, like a different comment. That was a great comment. Thank you for sharing that. So Python, join SF Python meetup. Paul is the co-organizer, and big women in STEM push there. I don't understand. Big women? Or do you mean there's a big push for women in STEM? Or is it just only big women are allowed? Oh, you are not seeing what you're posting. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I just realized that what I posted was not for all attendees. Cause like I'm 5'9", so I feel like I would be able to go still, because like I would count myself as a big woman. He's like, big push. It's big push, but that's okay. I found it more fun to like tease you, to be honest. I'm 5'9", so I feel like I'm a big woman. Yeah. Okay, so we need to do software composition analysis of some sort, whether we analyze it ourselves or we get a tool that analyzes it, to make sure that all our libraries, our third-party components, our frameworks, etc., are not known to be vulnerable. This is a really important move because we accept that risk. Oh, Paul encourages big women and small women to come to the conference, like to the Python meetup. All sized women are invited. Perfect. Okay, so now we're on to the last one. The very last of the top 10. There's still a few more slides. You are all being such good sports. Thank you so much. I know this is a lot of information. So the very last one is insufficient logging and monitoring. Way back in the day when I was a software developer, our apps didn't log almost anything because our bosses told us that space was expensive and to stop wasting it. Then time progressed and things changed, and then we started logging things, and then we even started monitoring things. And if things are really important, you need to log, monitor, and alert. I'm a big fan of creating alerts that work. So it is telling us here most successful attacks start with a vulnerability probing. Allowing such probes to continue can raise the likelihood of a successful attack to nearly 100%. So if you can just flick away people that are scanning your app and say, no, go away, just like block their IP address, tell them where to go. If you can check patterns, if you can just have your app tell you, I fell into an unknown state. These are the things that happened, help me. That can help. I have articles about what to log and what to alert on and how to send the alerts, because this is a thing that interests me. I'm a giant nerd. Someone just because we're talking about big women on the internet are strangers on the internet. Not all of them. Not all of them are strangers. Okay, so insufficient logging and monitoring is a problem. If you can afford it, turn on logging and monitoring. As an incident responder, when I respond to a security incident, if there are no logs, I have very little to look at and investigate, and I feel like a dum-dum. It's very, very frustrating because I want to do really well by my clients, right? I want to help. I like being a superhero where I have all the answers. And when there's monitoring, that means it can tell you, this is bad, that's bad, watch out for this. I know that some people talk about alert fatigue. That's usually with a SIEM, a security information and event management system, sometimes called a SIEM. That's network alerts. Those are a lot. You can make your apps just alert on certain things. You can make it log just certain things. If it is a custom app, you have control. Like I said, again, I have an article about this because I'm pretty excited about apps logging and monitoring. I think they should send alerts directly to the SIEM, and you should talk to the security analysts that look at your SIEM and make sure they understand when to come and get you. You want to enable them to respond to incidents, and giving them useful alerts is one way you can do that. There is a message or a question in the chat. Speaking of affording things, what are the most important logs you think should be turned on for a small business, especially if you're just a consultant for them? This is such a good answer. I actually am part of like 2 different alliances of consultants, and we totally argue this out. So I am a software person. So what I believe needs to be logged are all your transactions within your app, all of your changes to user status. So for instance, like login, log out, failed login attempt. So any failed attempt at things, definitely log that. And if there's more than 2, you should send that to as a security alert. So if someone's tried to log in for a 3rd time, maybe send it as like a low alert. If someone logs in 10 times, that's a high. No human is so patient that they're going to sit there and log in 10 times. And if they are, you need to lock their account or go check it out. If they're logging in, trying to log in 100 times in a second, that is a bot. You need to block that. I literally could talk about this all the time. Oh, well, thank you for joining us. Sometimes people have to leave early. Don't worry, there's a recording / this will probably be on the internet. I could talk all day about what things to log, but I am a firm believer in logging the activities of things that happen in your app. If you cannot afford that, then just log things that look like security problems. So if someone is trying to log in for the 3rd time in under 2 seconds, let's say, for the 10th time in under 5 seconds, like find variables that you can deal with. If your app ever falls into an unknown state, so if you have a global try catch, that needs to, if you fall into that, you need to log it. If there's any sort of if then else, and then at the very bottom where you're just like, I don't know what happened, all of those things definitely need to be logged, and you should send an alert somewhere so someone can go see what happened. It might just be your users having the world's worst day, but something's going on and you need to find out because you need to defend your app. You are your app's best protection. Application crashes are a sign of being hacked. Yes, I agree 100%. So this is the last of the top 10. And so, oh wait, there we go. I am hoping your brain has not been melted. I have people comment that after having the whole top 10 that their brain is a bit melty. Don't worry, it'll repair after you sleep. I'm gonna give you a bunch of free resources because I like doing that. So, well, these are not free resources. So these are books. These books are awesome. So I'm biased, so the last one is my book. But the DevOps Handbook, Learn How to Do IT Right, the Phoenix Project, it's kind of like a fictional tale, but it tells all about how to do DevOps and how to do great IT. Accelerate, that is about basically like it proves with evidence that DevOps works. And then it talks about amazing strategies to use data and metrics so that you can be better and better and better. The Unicorn Project, which is Jean Kim's newest book, which is another fictional tale that again teaches you how to do IT really, really nicely. And then the last one is Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. And I think it's a great book. The next one is WoSEC, Women of Security. So for all of you who joined from the OWASP chapter, if you are a woman, and we are very open and inclusionary and intersectional in our definition of women, if you have any interest in InfoSec or cybersecurity, hacking, web app security, all of those things, we would love to basically become your new friend. We want women to join our field, make long-term careers, and have lots of new friends, seriously. We have a website now. We are all grown up. And we have a Twitter account. We're on LinkedIn. We do all the things. Chloe is your leader for your city. And she is awesome sauce. I know for a fact. And so you should check us out. Also, every Monday is Cyber Mentoring Monday. If you, first of all, have worked in your job 2 years or more, you could be someone's professional mentor and help them reach a new level of their career. And you could also make cool new friend. If you are looking to get into information security and you don't know where to start, you can follow this hashtag and then maybe ask for a professional mentor and meet someone that could help guide you. I have had several professional mentors in my career that have helped me constantly reach the next level, the next level, the next level. When I started this company, I had 3 professional mentors help and guide me, and they still help guide me. They don't even always agree with each other, which is the best, because then I have multiple experiences and opinions to pull from when I make big, important decisions. Having a professional mentor will take you to the next level, trust me. And being a professional mentor is so rewarding. I cannot tell you how good it feels to see the people that you have helped excel and do awesome and be just freaking amazing. I talk a lot about mentoring because it matters to me. More resources. Me! I am on the internet. So there's my company, We Hack Purple, if you would like some formal training. But I have a Twitter account. I tweet about security. I have a blog on dev.to. I have a YouTube channel. I even have my own newsletter, which I sent out this morning. So you missed it this month. You'll have to try to go between now and next month and sign up. And I just made my own personal website. It does not have very much on it, except these links and some more links. So someone is saying your website, your WoSEC website asks for an email and for last name and phone number for the email. Why does it do that? That's weird. Are you trying to log into it as like an admin user? Let's go look at it now. First, I will do the thank you page, and then I'm gonna go look at the WoSEC page because I can do that. So let's go look. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming. Oh, not for the newsletter. Yeah, after you try to submit. What are you trying to submit for? Chloe, can you help the person that's in the chat? Because I want to make sure she gets all the things. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest in OWASP. Thank you for your interest in WoSEC. Thank you for your interest in securing web applications so that Chloe and I can buy shoes safely on the internet. I know I make it sound like I buy shoes all the time. I don't very often, but when I do, I like to know that people aren't going to steal all my money and harm me or harm people I care about that use the internet. So this is our job to protect them.
Shoes and pistachios, you guys.
Shoes and pistachios.
If you didn't learn anything from this, remember shoes and pistachios. And next time when you see shoes and pistachios, you will now think of this talk.
I love it. I should like just secretly put those clues in. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
May, if you stay on the chat for a bit, I'm going to try to help figure it out with you to make sure that you can get what you want from our site, because we want more members, not less, and you shouldn't have to give a bunch of private information. Oh, Adam. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you follow me online, I share content all the time. Pistachio and almond ice cream. What? I should have eaten dinner before this. I am totally planning to go buy ice cream after this because I want to. And because the pistachios won't arrive for days. Maybe I'll get pistachios too. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for being here. This was awesome.
Thank you. There are so many different online activities right now because of the pandemic, so I appreciate you choosing us. Please check out all the OWASP stuff. Please check out WoSEC, whether it be the local chapter or lots of other chapters, because you can kind of attend online right now. Follow WoSEC tweets for lots and lots of just awesome news about women all the time, just cool stuff. They don't have to be our member. We're just like, she's awesome. Let's retweet her. We want to be this fountain of positivity on the internet.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Tanya, thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing. And you guys, I will post the recording probably within a week because it is the holiday weekend coming up. So I might push it off until next week. But there will be a recording and I will tweet it out once it's posted and also post on LinkedIn. So if you catch, you will be able to see it.
Cool. If May stays on first, is she allowed to stay on so I can try to like figure out what is going on with?
Yep. I'm just going to stop the recording.
Okay.
And everyone else who doesn't want to stay, it was great seeing you. Stay safe, San Francisco.